Welcome to From Caving In to Crushing It, the podcast for those who find themselves immersed in adversity and choose to write their story instead of having others write it for them. I'm Drew Duraney, and I'm your host. Lafaya Mitchell, how are you?
I am good. Very happy to be here with you.
Thrilled to be here with you too. Oh, geez. I guess we'll dive right into it. I always like when I get to speak to the guest prior to recording because we kind of catch up if we haven't talked for a while. And sometimes I pick up on stuff that I'm like, oh wow, that'd be great to talk about, today, which we do have something because yes, you are writing a new book, and we're definitely going to dive into that. I do want to start. I always start by thanking the individual who introduced me to my guest. And I have to thank Anka Herman. Anka, you introduced me to Lafaya. Thank you very much, Anka. There's always a reason why people introduce, and I know why you introduced us. So thank you. So, why are you here? Well, we talked a little about it before we hit the record button. I always talk about how we're taught when we're young that life is linear. And it's not a malicious teaching. We're told, hey, if you do all the right things, A plus B plus C in this order, everything's going to be great. And for the most part, life is linear until it's not. There's always a moment for each one of us where something gets in the way, some external circumstance gets in between one of those letters and kind of derails our straight path. And now we have a circuitous route. And there's always a defining moment when we finally realize it and we do something differently that changes our path for the better. And, we were talking this before. I believe there's three types of humans, three types of men, three types of women. Woman number one, so many blind spots in her life. She doesn't see all the things that are out there as opportunities. So she doesn't see anything. She just says, this is just life, it's the way it is, and I go about the way people told me to go about my life, and that's it. And on her deathbed, she's got some regrets. But then there's woman number two, who's got a heightened self awareness. She notices all this adversity, yet she's a victim. She blames. Life's doing it to her. She can't change anything. Her trajectory's set in stone. She just goes about her business the way it's laid out. And she's got a ton of regrets on her deathbed because then she realizes I could have done something and I didn't. Woman number three, that's you, is a woman who has heightened self awareness, sees the adversity, and finally says, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. This stuff out here is not barriers. These are opportunities to do something different. This is life doing it for me. And I'm gonna do something different and get through this and be a stronger woman on the other side. All right. So for the audience, if you could reach back as far as you need to and find that defining moment, whether it was the tap on the shoulder, the whisper in the ear, or like what I needed, the 2x4 upside my head, to make you move from woman number one to two, or two to three, or one to three, or whatever. But what did you do? What happened for you to become who you are now?
Oh man. Okay. So I think
Ready?
that my first,
Yeah.
yes,
Here we
I
go.
think
Here we
that my
go.
first
Ready for this?
defining moment,
Okay.
okay, was the birth of my first son. He's
Okay.
now 32. He's gonna be 33. I was 17 years old, way too young,
Uh-huh.
teen mom,
Okay.
pregnant at 16. And when I looked at this little boy, I said to myself, you will never grow up like I did.
Okay.
Okay. That was a true defining moment for me. And at that moment, I tried to figure out how to keep from bringing the same trauma that was brought to me to him.
Got it.
So I say that's defining moment number one to two.
Got it.
Girl, one to two. Okay.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
Now, at that point, I'm still a victim at this point, though, because I don't understand how to do this. I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I finished high school. I go to college. I don't know what I'm doing there. None of my family had ever graduated from college. So I'm like, and I'm being told by everyone, it's not going to do you any good. So and so graduated from college. They don't have anything, right? This is the influence in my life, right?
Right.
So I'm
Right.
still the victim. So defining moment number two,
Mm-hmm.
okay, came when I was about, I want to say 25 or so. Okay. And I was in a bad relationship. My ex-husband now. I was in a bad relationship and I was going to do bad things because I would get upset and I was a control freak.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to go, figure it out and make him act right, right?
Right.
In my bad ways.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I had a literal crossroads moment,
Okay.
okay, where literally, and I don't know how other people's beliefs are, but I believe in God, okay, and where the voice, whatever you want to call it, has said to me, "You don't want to do that," okay, because I was going to do bad stuff, and you don't want to do that, and I'm literally on the freeway, and I can go to the left or to the right. Right is I don't know where I'm going. Left, I'm going to do the bad thing. And I'm fighting with myself, and I'm like, yes, I do want to go do it. What else am I going to do? Next thing I know, my will is turning to the right. And I was
Mm,
mad. Okay. I'm driving down the freeway mad that I'm going to the right. Like, now where am I going? This is stupid. I'm wasting gas. I'm broke. I can't
mm,
waste gas.
okay.
And and
Mm,
so anyway, go to your grandmother's house. I did not like my grandmother back then. She
okay.
was way too churchy for me. It was, and I was like, nope, I don't like her. There were lots of things from my past, failure to protect, and lots of things that made me not like any of my family.
Okay.
And so, but I went to her house anyway. Okay, I went and I knocked on the wrong door and everything, and the door she wouldn't hear me down in the basement. And she heard me anyway. Said hello, and I'm like, ah. So that was my defining moment number two, that moved me closer to that three. I would say I was still the two girl for a while, but there was a process. The journey
Mm,
began
right.
that showed me that things can be better, that all things do work for good. So yeah, that those were my defining moments.
Wow. All right. All right. So I want to go back to defining moment number one. 16, pregnant, and you have your son. Um, you mentioned you didn't want him to have the trauma you had. Are you comfortable talking about what trauma you were talking about? Because obviously, if you didn't want your son to have it,
Oh, there was a bunch. So so I grew up in the era where where I think the crack academic whatever you call it, epidemic, pandemic, whatever
yeah,
you call it, right?
yeah,
During that time.
okay,
And so I had my parents were very heavily, heavily addicted and all that. So I grew up in a home that was not a good home at all. So there
okay,
was that. There was extreme domestic violence. I saw some things that children should never see.
right,
I was suicidal at age 7. I used to put knives to my stomach, and I was afraid of the pain though. And I
right,
would say to myself, because I just wanted the pain to be over with.
right,
Okay. I did not want to be here on this earth. I didn't think there was a good reason for me to be here anyway. I was just, and had I not been too fearful and fearful of going to hell too, because that's what we learned in our religion
okay,
back when I was
yeah,
that too, it probably would have happened because I was not a very happy little person,
right,
or even getting older to that bigger person,
right,
right? So yeah, it was there was a lot. So I dealt with a lot: molest, rape, you name it. Just go across all the worst things, and
okay,
that probably happened.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, it's interesting because, and I'm sorry you went through all that, and you're a stronger person for it, and I give you a ton of credit for being who and where you are, despite all of that. Now, it's interesting because usually fear is not healthy, but for you, the fear of potentially going to hell saved your life.
It definitely did.
So
100%.
I find that interesting. So that's a safe and a healthy, I guess, good kind of fear because you're here, thank God. So interesting, very interesting. So God bless you for getting through that stuff. So I'm just thinking about when you're being 16 and having a child. You're a child yourself. So how did you become the wonderful mother you are? How did
I
you do
think
it? Who'd you
I think
because usually
that
you want a
one of the
mentor and you couldn't go back to your parents to ask how to parent your son.
new.
Right.
But I think that one of the things that were they were it was a it gave me an advantage, okay,
Mhm. All right.
was that I had to be extremely responsible
Right.
at a very young age. Not saying that this is wonderful, because these things should never happen, right?
Right.
I'm frying chicken at age 7. I thought literally that you were supposed to get burnt when you cooked, because I would have boils all over my arms because I was too young to be cooking. I wasn't careful enough, but I thought that's how it was supposed to be until I
Okay.
got older and I
Right.
stopped burning myself.
Right. Right.
Then
Right.
I was like, oh, that was never supposed to happen.
Hmm. Oh
But anyway,
wow.
but the advantage that came from that was I had to really take care. I had to step up and take care of my sister and brother. I would
Right.
always put them before me. So even if we were all sick, we could have. I remember at one point I was a little girl. I had a bad fever. All I know is I was very dizzy. But
Yeah.
my brother and sister, they were sick. So
Okay.
that mattered to me more than me being
Yeah.
sick. So I walked my little self to the store and I stole medicine for them.
Okay.
I still believe to this day that the people in the store knew that I was stealing things, but I was stealing things like food
Right.
and like medicine. And so they never stopped me. Right. And so, and it's still to this day, I'm very thankful. Now that I'm older, I understand that
Yeah.
they were watching me and they saw me. There were certain things that they were doing and they would just let me go. And, but it taught me very young to be a caretaker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
And so I would caretake for them. And so me caretaking for my own son was a huge thing for me. And my experiences taught me that I wanted him safe and protected.
right. Right.
Okay. So I was very, very protective. I was like fiercely protective. Like anybody, like people who I knew weren't good people. They could not touch my son, breathe on him, nothing. Like, and I didn't care how much everybody in the family hated me when I did it.
Uh,
If for the older kids, when I got older, for the other kids in the family, I would tell on the people, the ones who were not good people, who were molesters, and that I would let them know, keep them away from your kids, and people would hate me for it,
well,
but I didn't care.
no.
So just taking care of my son was like in my nature already,
Yeah.
even though I lacked a lot of the skill set. I lacked a lot of things. I didn't have enough,
Right.
knowledge or wisdom, but I learned.
Wow. How's your son doing now?
He's 32 now and he's
No.
doing well. He's
That's
a great
wonderful.
kid. Okay.
Oh, God.
And I would say that he's a great kid. And I feel like my younger kids
Yeah.
got a better advantage than he did.
Okay.
So so back when he was a little kid, I didn't teach him some things because I didn't have that skill set.
Right.
And
Right.
so my other two kids that I had 10 years later, they're more school inclined. So, I have my little scientist and my little,
Yeah. Right. Yep.
my little foreign studies student and
Uh,
those kind of things. And
yeah.
my older guy, he's more of a worker horse. So
Okay.
he's never been that. He drives me nuts though. I wish he would have been in the school because he's so smart and so
Yeah.
talented, but
Yeah.
he never was. He was that guy that was like, I'm going out there, I'm gonna work my butt off because that's what
Wow.
he saw
Okay.
me do, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I totally
But he's
understand.
doing he holds
Absolutely.
his own and I'm proud of him.
Yeah. Well, see, I love that you're proud of him. You should be proud of yourself too. And it's interesting because a lot of us could regret certain things, but you had certain tools at a young age as a mother that you didn't know what you didn't know. So you did to the best of your ability and at that point. So, that's why when people regret things they did in the past, get out of the past. The past is the past. You're not that person anymore.
Right.
Cut yourself a break. So good for you. So he's doing well, and okay. So when did the other two children were from your former husband?
Yes,
That
yes.
okay?
So my first guy,
Yeah.
I was never I never stayed with that particular dad. He was not a good person either.
Right.
But
Right.
I never stayed with that particular guy because he was not a good person.
Right.
And so my second, I met my ex-husband
Mhm.
10 years ago. Okay.
Okay.
I mean not 10 years ago, 10 years after,
After, yeah.
my
Right.
I'm getting it all wrong.
It's all right.
Anyway, I
It's all
met
right.
my ex-husband when my son was 3 years old,
Got
and
it.
then
Okay.
we had kids 10 years after meeting. That's
Got it. Okay. I
that's
understand.
proper, but yeah,
Got it. Got it.
but
Got it.
yeah,
Got it.
but yeah. It was see now I forgot the question. Sorry.
That's all right. The youngest two are boy and a girl for the youngest two.
Yeah, yeah. My
Oh, great.
oldest is a boy, and then I had another boy,
Right.
10 years later, and then my girl, um, 2 years after that.
Got it. Okay.
And to add to that, though, I now have six children
Oh, okay.
because I adopted my three nieces who
Oh,
my brother lost custody of. So, I didn't mean to
oh,
throw that wrench in there, but
wow. So wow, and you're doing everything you're doing professionally.
yes.
That wow, you're amazing. Okay, so I'm speaking to Wonder Woman basically.
No, you're speaking to a person who is very, very challenged herself,
Yeah.
but has chosen to take those challenges and turn them into something really positive and to
Okay.
make other people's lives better. So
Wonderful.
those three little adopted girls,
Yeah.
they are 8, 7, and 5, and they're freaking awesome.
Awesome.
Okay. So,
All right. This is great. So now let's get a great transition because let's get into those defining moments you discussed, and now you have six children at all different ages. What are you doing now, personally and professionally, that is not only strengthening their lives, it's strengthening your life and now strengthening others outside of your family?
okay. Personally, I am never going to stop growing. I'm never going to stop looking into how I can be a better person,
Okay.
how I can respond better, how I can react. And as I do that,
Right.
that moves over into my professional life
Mm-hmm.
because that it is my mission to teach other people how to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
So whether you whatever disadvantages that you feel like you have,
Right.
really learning how to turn that pain into your empowerment in whatever ways you can,
Okay.
because there's always a way. You can teach someone else going through the same thing that you are. You can just grow in little ways, not asking people to just like have these, because my life is 100% not perfect, right?
Right.
So again, I have my own challenges, my own. That's why I like to teach people about them. But to just learn to just grow just a little bit at a time
Mm-hmm.
and embrace those small step improvements as you're moving along.
Yeah.
Give yourself credit for those and be proud of yourself and keep growing, keep moving,
Right.
right?
I love that. I love that. So what specifically are you doing professionally? Because I know we did talk about that and it is fascinating and
Oh my goodness. Okay, so
and get
just this
into the
year alone,
why. So like what you're doing and the why. Go ahead.
okay, so about 10 years ago, okay, I started a book series for parents of parenting what I would call hypersensitive children. I know not everybody knows what hypersensitive means, but if you
Mhm.
think about the word, it's those who are extremely sensitive to the stimuli around them, right?
Okay.
So either they have sensory issues or for whatever reason they have, maybe anger issues, emotional regulation issues,
Right.
whatever it is, they struggle, okay?
Yeah.
And so I wrote a parent series, and it was specifically focused originally when I wrote it for parents of children on the autism spectrum.
Okay.
Okay, because that's one near and dear to my heart because my daughter's on the spectrum,
Right. Yeah.
and I watched as she was growing, because she was different. She was different from birth. She would get complaints from other people. They would say things like when she was a small child, baby, like under a month, they
Okay.
would say she's just spoiled and she's these things and that because she would cry all day,
Right.
all night because she was just overwhelmed.
Overstimulated.
Sounds, the doorbell would ring, any
Yeah.
unexpected sound, voices she didn't know already, all kinds of things. She just had lots of struggles from very young, and
Mm.
I had a battle, and I felt like it makes you feel like you're kind of on an island alone
Right.
because
Absolutely.
it can feel embarrassing,
Yeah.
because of other people's judgment. It can feel a lot of different ways. And then for me, I kind of keep my mama bear kicks in. I'm like, if you
Yeah.
would like for her never to like you, then
Mm.
you can continue to think that silliness because clearly she's viscerally impacted by
Yeah.
these sounds. She's a
Absolutely.
baby,
Yeah.
right? And so very protective. And she also had an aversion to eye contact. So an extreme aversion.
Mm.
So if normal attachment, you look at your baby, you look at them and you sing to them and all those things. She did not want you to
No.
look at her. Looking at her caused her a great deal of anxiety.
Wow.
She would cringe and
Okay.
scream,
Wow.
right? So I had to slowly get her adapted and turn her out. My own face. I'm like, how ugly am I? Like, why do you hate? No, no, I didn't think any of that. But no,
Wow.
I look at her. I would bring her in and I'd be like, I don't blame you. I don't like when people look me in the eyes either. And she'd
Yeah.
scream and then I turn her out. And
Yeah.
I do that for hours and hours until she took longer and longer periods of time before she would scream.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And we taught her how to kind of calm her system and desensitize to
Right.
that contact. Right.
Yeah.
And so, and did things like this with her that I thought they were just they felt like instincts to me because I
Yeah.
understood
Yeah.
feeling bad about people looking at you and things like
Right.
that,
Yeah.
And so then it kind of naturally went over into my work. And
Okay.
so I was introduced to by a fantastic woman, Wanda. I love you
Yeah.
forever. But Wanda, but she's a beautiful woman, and
Yeah.
she actually brought me back into the work world because I
Okay.
had taken some time off,
Yeah.
because I have two small children at this
Right.
point. So I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll just take some time off. We'll focus on my husband's career, blah blah blah. And she said, you have to come to this agency. You're so great at the work, and you can work whatever hours you want to,
Right.
you can work whatever hours you want to.
Yeah.
If you only want to work 5 hours a week, that's all you have to do. And
Right.
so she brought me in, and I had no idea what I was getting into. And I'm introduced now to the world of autism spectrum disorder, and had no clue that that's what was going on with my daughter at all.
Oh
I
my.
just had these natural instincts.
Yeah. Oh
Okay.
wow.
And
Yeah.
so I went in there, and the first thing I recognized was these kids, well, the kids that I was working with were very sensitive. Okay. They were
Okay.
sensitive to what was happening with me internally. I recognize it, and I know, and I started calling it dynamic. Like, I started calling it emotion soaking. I just made it up
Hmm.
because I'm like, they're taking in whatever's happening on the inside of you and me the
Right.
same way I do. So I'm very sensitive in that way, a strong emotion soaker.
Right. Right. Right.
And so it actually caused me to hate people for years because I
Whoa.
could feel what was coming from them. And
Okay.
most of the time, it's not authentic. So I did not want to be around people.
Oh.
Okay.
And what you were, yeah, okay. So that's a skill. That's like a superpower to be able to sense the energy coming from people, what type of energy it was. Okay.
And I feel like that was another gift
Yeah.
that I received from my history.
Yeah.
So see, the history, it makes me who I am today. I My dad, he apologized to me years ago, a lot of years. It was like he felt so bad. He's like, I'm so sorry you had to go through what you went through when you were younger and blah. I was like, Daddy, it's okay. I said it's what made me who I am today.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
he said, oh no, he almost got mad at me. Oh no, you have to be upset. I'm like, but I'm not. I said, because I really love who I am.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
I said, and it gave me superpowers. Like, I can help people in ways that other people
Yeah.
cannot, because
But you
either I
know he
can
didn't
either
do it on
relate,
purpose. Right?
huh?
You didn't you know your father didn't do that stuff on purpose. It's something he felt
No,
to do
no,
and yeah.
no. He just wasn't healthy, and he
Yeah.
just he struggled himself,
Yeah.
right? And
Right.
so it. But anyway, he went through all that, and I was like, yeah, no, this is all great. But anyway, my superpower led to me figuring out different ways to work with kids on the spectrum that were just quirky and different and weird like me.
I love it. I love
And
that.
so my way was just weird. I would just do things. I'm like, oh, okay, you don't want to engage with me. I had this one little boy that hid himself in a tunnel. We had these little flexi tunnels in
Yeah.
there so that he didn't have to hear me or talk to me. And I'm like, you know what? I don't blame you, because I get paid for being here and I hardly want to be here. Like, so I can't imagine how you feel right now.
Oh
Right.
my gosh.
And so, but I actually, he put one day, he like put the tunnel, and I just stopped talking. I was like, oh, what am I going to do with this kid? And so I picked up the tunnel and I put it over my own head. And I started to look around. I was like, oh,
You
I
get
was like,
it.
now I understand why you like it in here. Like, it drowns out sound. You don't have to
Yeah.
look at my
Yeah.
ugly face,
I
blah,
love
blah, blah.
it.
I
I
started saying all
love
these things, right? And then I put the tunnel down for the first time. This little boy who had never spoken a word to
yeah.
me,
Yeah.
completely ignored, won't even talk to his own mom. Okay. He was looking at me with this faint look of almost like a smile in
Oh,
his
that's
eyes.
so
Like, what
fun.
is this weird lady
I
doing?
love it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I said, oh no, if I don't get to look at you, you don't get to look at me. And I pulled the tunnel back up
I love it. That's
and
wonderful.
started to play like this weird
Yeah.
game of
Yeah.
like hide and seek. I mean,
Hide
not
and seek. Yeah.
peekaboo with
Yeah.
him,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that had breakthrough. And
Mm.
fast forward to 6 months later, this kid was asking kids if they were okay. His teacher was having a fit, asking kids if they were okay on the playground, helping them up, and doing
Oh,
things like that. Who
that's
was
good.
fully not engaged before that.
Right,
Okay.
right. Wow, that's wonderful. I
And
love
so
that
I
story.
started to have parents say to me, you have to share this with other parents.
Okay.
Whatever it is you do, whatever this magic wand it is, I saw, like, I don't have a magic wand. I don't know how to share. They're like, write a book. I don't write. Leave me alone.
Yeah.
Right. I
Right,
did that
right,
for
right.
about for
Yeah.
about 10 years. I was
Yeah.
very resistant.
I love it.
And then life circumstances kind of circled around. Like, we talk about those things coming, they come in life. Talk about that what'd you call it? A 2x4
Two
hit
by
to the head.
four. Yep. Yeah. I
I
love
had
it.
to get the 2x4 hit to
Yep.
write the books. But
Okay.
when I finally settled down
Mhm.
and I was obedient to the call,
Yeah.
okay, 60,000, seriously, 60,000 words poured out of my body
Mm.
in a week. Okay. And I was writing all day, all night.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had no idea what to do with this document now.
Right.
And then, I was introduced, because when you put it out there, right? When you do what you are supposed to
Yeah.
do, then
Right.
the things come to you.
Yes. Absolutely.
Oh, when you do what you're supposed to. No, no, no. Anyway,
Yeah. No,
I like
different. Different
anyway,
supposed to. Yeah, I hate that supposed.
but no, the right people were
Yeah.
put into my path. And I wrote everything I had. I met a woman who told me, she said, I raised two boys on the spectrum. And she said, if I had your this information, I would still be married today. When she read through my long document,
Oh,
she said, so you are not going to share this encyclopedia's worth of information in one book. We're going to break it down
yeah,
into maybe,
yeah,
I see maybe 7 books here
yeah.
into a mini book series. Okay. And that's when the Lafaya Way itself was born. Right.
Lafaya Way.
And it only came to be because people would say to me, oh, I tried it the Lafaya Way and it worked. I'm like, why do you keep calling it that?
I
They said,
love
because I've
that.
never heard of what you do before. So it's just the Lafaya Way.
I love that. The Lafaya Way. So that's the name of your business, the company, the business. The
Yes.
Lafaya Way. All right. So what is the Lafaya Way?
Okay. Initially, okay,
Hmm.
because it's evolved.
All right. Let's just,
Initially,
yeah,
I
let's
called the
get the
Lafaya.
evolution here. All right.
Initially, I called the Lafaya Way an advanced relational approach. Okay, to calming the red hot system, basically.
Okay.
So it's with people with maybe emotional regulation issues or
Mhm.
kind of struggles,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. It would help to kind of calm down that piece. And
Okay.
I had a 4-step breakdown,
Hmm.
how to eliminate those very unhealthy dynamics
Okay.
that keep you from being able to have breakthrough
Got it.
with people who are hypersensitive.
All right.
That was originally.
Okay. Love it so
And
far. Okay.
and now it has evolved to, because I also didn't mention that, on the side, with all my extra time that
All
I
right. All
have,
that
I,
extra time. Yeah.
I love to play. I love the game of poker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh,
I was
oh, look
introduced
at
to it
you.
in my 30s.
Okay.
I had only seen maybe cowboy movies every once
Ooh.
in a while,
Yeah.
the whole saloon playing, but I had zero understanding of
Yeah.
poker at all.
All right.
And then all of a sudden, I don't remember which year it was, I was in my 30s though. I see this on TV, on ESPN, mind you.
Oh,
I see
really?
a bunch of
Okay.
people playing cards, and I'm like, what are these people doing
Wow.
on TV
Yeah.
with no athletic talent whatsoever,
I love it. I love
playing
it.
stupid cards? Like, I was very
Yeah.
upset at first. And
Okay.
then I turned the channel, of course, and then again, it was on ESPN again. So there it was, just playing, and I heard words that I liked, like Yahtzee, like the
Okay.
Yahtzee words, like three of a kind,
Maybe yeah.
and I think
Yeah.
straight.
Uh-huh.
They caught a straight. And I was like, oh, maybe this is like Yahtzee. So it made me tune in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I learned that there was a psychological component to the game. Once
Yeah.
I figured out there was a psychological component to the game,
Love
I was
that.
like, oh, I have to learn this game.
That's all you. Yeah. I love it. So on the side doing poker. I love it. I love it. I
Yes.
love
And so I've taken the philosophy of my 4 steps,
it. Mhm.
and through another long process in my journey, I learned that those 4 steps actually work for preventing tilt. And tilt in poker is basically a state where you just kind of lose your mind for a second. Something bad happens.
Oh, okay.
you you have a 96% chance to win, and by the time they put down that last card, you lose.
Oh my God. Okay. I didn't know the word tilt for that.
Right?
Okay. I'm not a big
And
gambler. Okay.
and you lose all your cards. You lose
Ooh.
all. I mean, you lose all your chips. Okay,
Wow.
because you lose your mind, and all of a sudden you start making bad decisions because you're upset.
Yeah.
Right?
All
Tilt.
right. So I
You're
see.
on
So
tilt.
you took that from that into the life when people fall apart and get overwhelmed and okay. All right.
So I used to go on tilt all the time
Okay.
because I have what I call red alert brain. Okay,
All
it's
right.
automatically set that way because of my trauma
Oh yeah.
experience.
Oh, that's true. I
Okay,
see that. Yeah.
and so I'm very good in life at managing my emotions now, but in
Okay.
poker, that was my space where nope, that I was triggered all the time, all the time. My heart space just hot, everything running hot. I'm angry, I'm mad.
Yeah.
That's the space where I was like still going off on people,
Wow. Okay. Wow.
years
Yeah.
ago. And then it was just like, okay, you need to calm down first
Yeah.
and foremost. It's ridiculous, it's not a good look.
Right.
And then I figured out that my steps could work for that, and I started actually working my own steps, my own Lafaya Way steps
Okay.
while playing poker, and
Okay.
it worked.
And it worked. Ah, there you go. And then you were like, it worked with poker. Maybe I can apply this and help other people.
Yes, yes,
So,
it was. I've already been applying it for years, right, to help with parents with kids on the spectrum,
okay. Yeah.
now severe ADHDs,
Right. Right.
mood disorders, all that. Had already figured all that part out. And then it found its way into my poker world too,
Okay.
and I intersected them. And now it's added to it's called a mental game component of the
Okay.
game I
Okay.
add now.
Got it. So the Lafaya Way right now, if what clients give me like a picture of what your ideal client is.
Yes. Okay. So right now I am living my dream life,
Okay.
okay?
Yep.
Because right now it's I have a variety of people always tell me if you can see everybody, you're seeing no one, right? But
Right.
right now I'm specifically working with kids on the spectrum,
Okay.
kids with severe ADHD and mood disorders,
Okay.
children of intergenerational trauma through a nonprofit program, which is
Okay.
like my love because I get to give back to the kids who are going through what I've been through,
Yeah. Right. Right.
right?
Right.
And and I get to coach people who play poker on the mental game. So it is like
Oh,
it
wow.
is fantastic, and I can tell you which days I do what.
I love that. Wow. So all right. So you're able to use your four steps both, and really people who are playing poker and working with them to improve their game with the mental approach. Age ranges for the kids who you work with, or does it not matter?
It does not. It
Okay.
does not. It is, I work with humans. And like I said, I know some people hate to hear it, but there is a general way
Mhm.
that people, once they are in the land of awareness,
Yeah.
want and need to be treated and how we all should treat one
Oh,
another.
yeah.
And what I do is teach people how to connect with other people in our humanity because
Okay.
that gets lost.
Yes.
Right. So,
Absolutely.
so parents dealing with children, sometimes they kind of lose sight of these are little humans,
Yes. Yes.
okay, and how important it is to make them, make sure that it's understood that they're heard, that how they feel is validated, not that they get
Absolutely.
their way,
No.
but that the way they feel is validated, and then here's how I'm going to teach you how
Yeah.
to get better for yourself,
Absolutely.
things
Love
like
that.
that. So it's just, it's being learn how to be good to yourself,
Hmm.
and then having filling up that cup so that it overflows into improving your interactions with others.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I love that approach, and we really want the child to have self-compassion. We also and self-care. We also want the caregiver to also, right? It's like the oxygen
Yes,
in the airplane. If you can't be at your top of your game, how are you gonna be able to help somebody else get there? So,
exactly,
so it's
exactly.
it's both, and I love that. So, all right, so I could talk to you forever, but we gotta go. I would say the audience certainly has captured the essence of Lafaya Mitchell right now, and they're gonna want to get in touch with you. So, folks, you are gonna want to get in touch with Lafaya, and she says the best way to do it is to go to her website. It's lafayaway.com. And you could then from there be able to access her Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn page, reach out to her and all that, right? I get that right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I have two final questions for you. You ready for this? And considering what you told me your life was like at age 7, this may be a challenging exercise, but I want you to imagine you're sitting down with a young 7 to 10-year-old Lafaya right now, and you want to give her advice about life. What are you going to tell her?
Oh man, I want to tell 7-year-old me
Mm,
that everything is going to be okay. That everything that you see as pain you will understand at some point. Maybe not right now, but you will understand at some point, and you will be able to take that and make that your gifting.
I love that. Absolutely love that. All right. So now we're going to switch hats. And now you're sitting down with young Lafaya, the young businesswoman, young entrepreneur, and you want to give her advice about business. What are you going to tell her?
Oh my goodness. Okay, girl, stop taking stuff so seriously. Okay. Things just have a way of working out when your heart's in the right place.
Mm.
Okay. And if you feel something, if your intuition tells you that, and you know better than something, know when to see. Now, I don't think we play poker yet, but know when to fold them,
Oh, I
know
love
when to
that.
hold them, and
And
know
know
when to
when to
fold them.
fold them. I
And
love
and
that.
don't take your time. Don't
Okay.
compound the mistakes.
Yeah.
Just let it go.
I love that. All right. All right. So I want to end this with you telling us a little about the new book you're working on and how your original three, but how it's transformed where it's different, from your original series and where you're at now, because this is fascinating what you're writing now.
Okay, what I'm working on now is what I call my love note
Mhm.
to the pastors out there. And honestly, I know people, like I said, pastors, people don't even know what that means, but it's those people out there who they may or may not have been diagnosed with something, okay, but they don't fit in. They feel like an alien. They feel like maybe people feel like their reactions are exaggerated. There's all kinds of things. They've been bullied out there, mistreated, have maybe a tough time sticking with certain jobs, with people and all that. It's my love note to you. It's
Wow.
me telling you that everything can be okay.
Hmm.
And if you have emotional regulation issues, I break down for you how to get a hold of those and how to get to truly where you want to be. And so my title is to be determined because I have changed it 4 times now
All right.
because it's
That'll
my
be a
love work and
surprise.
it's so important to me and I want to try to make sure it's perfect. I'll get over it eventually though,
All
because there
right.
is no perfection.
No, I
Um,
no, it's going to be an awesome title. I know that. And so the term you say is a passer, Passer. And it's really
mhm.
interesting you say that because yesterday I was talking to somebody who said their uncle at age 50 was just diagnosed with autism.
Yep, yep,
50.
fifty,
And you would think there'd be anger and regret not knowing. This person told me that he was so relieved
relieved.
that he found out that he's just unique and he's got gifts and he can start to harness them and not feel ashamed. And there was so many, it was powerful,
Yes,
impactful how relieved this person said her uncle was. Imagine that 50 years old, you're going through life just challenged and struggled, you don't fit in, and then finally there's a diagnosis which doesn't really like limit you. It just allows you to understand that there was a reason why things were happening, and now there's a place for you to go, and now you'll fit in because,
yes.
you know, I love that. Wow. Unbelievable. So passers. Okay, so guys, look, you're gonna look out for that word in Lafaya's new book coming out soon. We hope. I'll put pressure on you to get this done.
I'm like seriously 8 chapters in, so soon is really the true word. I have to figure out the order and all that, but it's just I really want to make sure because it's my love work. I want to
Yeah,
make
definitely.
sure that it's
Absolutely.
good.
All right. Well, I
I would
want to
call
thank.
myself a passer too, by the way,
What's
just so
that?
you know. I would call myself a passer too, because
Would
there's so
you?
many challenges in here,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and sometimes I go misunderstood, but we talk about that later.
I get it. I get it. That'll be part two. Well, I want to thank you for coming on. I want to thank you for being the human being you are because what you're doing is amazing work. And I know that when you are compassionate to others, you're compassionate to yourself. And I certainly encourage people to be self-compassionate because then your gifts will shine so much easier when you're good to yourself. So thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for having me. You're
My,
wonderful.
my pleasure. Thank you. So are you. Everybody out there, please take care of yourselves. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and give us a review to help others find it. I'd like you to answer this question. Are you living the life you want to live, or are you living the life others want you to live? I'd like you to think about that for a second, because I strongly suggest you live the life you want to live. If you want to learn more about what I stand for and my services and how I'm able to help many men get out of their own way, please go to my website at www.profitcompassion.com. Feel free to also email me at drew@profitcompassion.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Take care of yourself and choose to write your own story instead of letting others write it for you.